It's May 26th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with the stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the campaigning for South Korea's June 3rd presidential election. With just 8 days left until the big day, the main contenders are pushing through the last week of their campaigns across the country. The Democratic Party's Lee Jae-myung pledged to launch a task force to tame the economic crisis, while the People Power Party's Kim Moon-soo vowed to revise the party's charter to limit presidential interference in party affairs. Russia over the weekend struck Ukraine with its largest drone and missile attack of the war, killing at least 12 people, and also prompting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to slam the U.S. for what he calls silence. U.S. President Donald Trump ramps up pressure on Harvard University, now urging the Ivy League school to disclose names and nationalities of all of its international students. Days after his administration's push to revoke the school's ability to enroll foreign students was blocked by a judge. We are now 8 days away from the election day, and on-board voting, in fact, begins from Monday to Thursday, allowing some 30,000 Korean aboard 454 ships to vote. Polling stations are set up on ships under the watch of a designated observer. The ballots will be sent directly via fax to the city or provincial election commission that presides over each voter's registered address. On-board voting was first introduced in 2012 for the 18th presidential election. Now it's only held for presidential and parliamentary elections. In the last presidential election held in 2022, 95.1% of those registered on-board voters cast their ballots. Also this week, early voting booths will be open throughout the country on Thursday and Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And with that being said, this past weekend was the final weekend before early voting, which kept the contenders busier than ever. The Liberal Party's Lee Jae-myung spent the weekend promising people to revitalize the economy, while the People Power Party continued to request a merger with the Reform Party. Our Kim Do-yeon reports.
The Democratic Party candidate Lee Jae-myung held a press conference on Sunday ahead of early voting later this week, where he reiterated that restoring the economy is his top priority. But he also reminded voters of what triggered the election in the first place, the declaration of martial law.
Those who threatened our constitutional order and public safety must be held accountable. But I will not engage in political retaliation targeting individuals.
On the economic front, Lee pledged to launch a presidential emergency task force to tackle inflation and tariffs, and said a supplementary budget will follow to jumpstart growth. Lee spent Sunday in the Chungcheongdo provinces after making stops in Gyeonggi-do province, a familiar region where he previously served as governor. Both areas are key swing regions expected to play a decisive role in the race. Kim Moon-soo of the People Power Party chose Gyeongsangbuk-do province, a conservative stronghold, for Saturday. In Daegu, Kim met with former President Park Geun-hye and argued that her impeachment had been unjust. The location and message come as he tries to strengthen support among traditional PPP supporters who aren't so enthusiastic yet. But at the same time, he appeared to draw a line between himself and another impeached president, Yoon Suk-yeol.
Criticism that the party is controlled by the president and his aides will no longer stand. I will put an end to power-driven, factional politics.
Kim pledged to revise the PPP charter to block presidential interference in party affairs, seen as a direct response and criticism over Yoon's role in internal decisions. Meanwhile, Reform Party candidate Lee Jun-seok campaigned in the capital region, targeting younger voters and doubling down on attacks against both rivals, Lee Jae-myung for progressive economic policies and Kim Moon-soo for his stance on martial law. As ballots began printing on Sunday, Lee's name was confirmed as the fourth on the list, regardless of any merger talks with the PPP. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
And on Friday, political mudslinging took over the talk on social policy as the four leading presidential contenders held their second debate. Our Oh Soo-young has the highlights.
While promising social unity, presidential candidates clashed ferociously over politics and policy in their second televised debate. Focusing on social affairs, Friday's topic were social division, social safety nets, and sustainability. The Democratic Party's Lee Jae-myung said he would overcome social division and inequality with technology such as artificial intelligence and continue to improve the current national pension system. As the former Labour minister, the People Power Party's Kim Mun-soo promised to build wider income safety nets for small businesses with improved pension schemes. Reform candidate Lee Jun-seok proposed a major pension overhaul, pointing out that the two major parties' legislative revision last year benefits the older generation while adding a $37,000 burden on every young Korean. He also calls for cuts to unnecessary high-tech scams that ramp up health insurance premiums. Democratic Labour's Kon Young-guk suggested doubling the basic pension to over $500 and building scores of state-run hospitals. Candidates also clashed over climate and energy policies. Left-leaning candidates continued pushing for renewable energy sources over nuclear power. Kim Mun-soo and Lee Jun-seok argued that nuclear power is much more efficient, affordable, and essential to support future industries like AI. But politics overrode policy throughout the two-hour debate. Lee Jae-myung said Kim Mun-soo was part of the impeached Yoon Suk-yeol administration that declared martial law last year.
The most extreme form of social conflict is an insurrection by martial law. Weren't they trying to completely wipe out the opposition?
Kim Mun-soo accused Lee's party of insurrection for handing radical left-wing group seats in parliament and underscored Lee's 5 criminal trials.
In corruption cases like Baek Hyun-dong and Dae Jang-dong, just look at how many people close to him are in prison or have died under suspicious circumstances. Uprooting lies and corruption is the first step towards national unity.
Lee Jun-seok blasted both the leading parties. He said that while the Conservatives are tarnished with Yoon's martial law, the majority Democratic Party is just as guilty of creating a broken society.
You should be ashamed. Those who are jointly responsible for wrecking the country show up in red and blue, only different in color, fighting over power in a shameless world.
The third and final live debate takes place on Tuesday, focusing on politics. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
And official ballots are now being printed as South Korea prepares for the snap presidential election next Tuesday. But questions over a possible conservative merger still linger. Let's turn to Professor Mason Ricci for more. Good morning, Professor Ricci.
Hi, good morning.
So the nation's election watchdog started printing the ballots out on Sunday, which means that even if there's a conservative merger, the Reform Party's Lee Jun-seok's name is there on the paper, but under the term resignation. Now, at that point, a merger wouldn't be as meaningful, would it?
Yeah, that's right. You know, whenever this type of thing happens at the last minute, the fact is, there is always the possibility of ballot confusion. Especially among older people who perhaps don't follow politics particularly closely. So indeed, mathematically, I mean, this is almost certain to hurt the Conservative Party if the merger were to happen, at least in some small way, because of ballot confusion. Whether or not it really makes much of a material difference, of course, is a second question. The other thing, of course, really is more the sort of spirit of that merger. And I think that there's a decent argument to be made that if a merger were to come about at this point, it might simply indicate that conservative unity has been too little and come too late, especially after all of the acrimony over the Han Duck-soo, Kim Mun-soo merger possibility, the way that shook out. And then, finally, there's also the question of whether or not Lee Jun-seok voters under a merger situation would go 1-to-1 for Kim Mun-soo, which is not necessarily guaranteed either. And some of the polling data indicates that that's not the case. Most of his supporters are indeed conservative, but some of them skew differently in terms of their attachments, in terms of political ideology, and might not support Kim Mun-soo 100%.
Well, I do have to mention a second and final window closes this Wednesday, though, the eve of early voting. I know the merger, a possible merger, seems highly unlikely at this point, but if it does happen, in what shape or form do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's either going to happen or it's not. The chances are 50-50. And, I really think, if you're Lee Jun-suk, obviously you have all the cards in this respect. Kim Moon-soo, clearly wants the merger to happen for obvious reasons. And Lee Jun-suk has held out for a lot of different reasons. Some of them, I think, go back to in fact, much of it perhaps even goes back to the acrimony over his being forced out of party leadership earlier by the old party elephants. The accusations of sexual misconduct, sexual harassment, and the way that resulted in party suspension. And essentially the sense that Lee Jun-suk was sort of forced out of the party in some sense. That's clearly left some scars. And then more pragmatically, if you're Lee Jun-suk, you're going to ask yourself the question of, what do you get? What type of influence do you get in a Kim Moon-soo government, for instance? So what type of influence do your political allies get? Put differently, the question that Lee Jun-suk has to ask himself is, how would a merger help him for the future, right? He's still young. He's still a future conservative flag bearer. And in that sense, he wants, I think, to set himself up for the future as much as he does for right now. And I would argue that given the situation that we're in now, probably the best political calculus for him, I'm thinking, at least in terms of what he thinks, is that he stays in the race. He gets to argue that he has principles. He doesn't attach himself to the old guard in the Conservative Party, in the PPP. And he sets himself up also to see what type of sort of floor of support he would have through actually going through the election. And that would give him some information about what his political future would be in future presidential elections.
Definitely. He is a young contender, youngest contender out of the all runners. Professor Ritchie, we have to talk about the second president-to-TV debate last Friday. Now, how constructive do you think that the debate was this time?
Not very. It wasn't a very good debate. There were a lot of personal attacks. There was a lot of mudslinging. It's not just in Korea. This happens all over. This happens in the United States. This happens in Europe. I increasingly question really how valuable these debates are, to be honest with you. They were supposed to debate about social welfare related issues, but honestly, they didn't talk about that nearly as much as they probably should have. It was really only in the back half of the debate. Lee Jae-myung spent a good portion of the debate essentially continuing to make the election a referendum on democracy, where he thinks he has stronger cards to play because of the martial law incident and former President Yoon's removal from power. He did eventually come around to talk about some other things like working hours and better corporate regulation and a sort of quote-unquote fairer economic system in Korea. Kim Moon-soo spent a lot of time talking about how Lee Jae-myung is not trustworthy, calling attention to his scandals and his lawsuits, essentially calling Lee Jae-myung a corrupt radical. He did, of course, talk about some economic issues as well, notably, for instance, pension reform. And then Lee Jun-suk basically spent most of his time attacking both parties. Essentially said that the conservatives do have the martial law stain attached to them, and there's nothing they can do to get that out, while also blaming the Democratic Party for radicalizing politics in Korea and essentially being jointly responsible. So there was a lot of mudslinging, a lot of personal attacks, and not a lot of substance about policy going forward.
What usually happens in all presidential debates across the globe. Now, the next 8 days will be crucial for all runners. Now, how do you think the Liberal candidate Lee Jae-myung, who is showing a strong lead, will spend the coming week?
Yeah, so I think in the first place, he's going to continue to hammer home what he considers to be, his huge advantage, and I think he's right analytically about that. And that is essentially making this election a referendum about the December 3rd martial law. He'll of course add to that. We've seen him, tacking to the middle and trying to make himself and his party come across as moderate, pragmatic, whether that be about domestic issues in Korea, for instance, tax reform, or whether that be foreign policy, where, for instance, Lee Jae-myung's tried to say the right things, for instance, about continuing the alliance with the United States and even in a trilateral context with Japan. So he'll talk about those things, and then Kim Moon-soo, we'll see him continue to hammer away at Lee Jae-myung as being corrupt. We'll see him obviously behind the scenes try to put this merger together, which of course is really a sine qua non for his ability to win this election. We'll see him continue to try to make himself look like a moderate conservative. Also, he'll continue to draw attention to his labor activist background. He'll continue to talk in terms of foreign policy about reliance on the alliance with the United States, notably with respect to trade, in addition to the obvious security issues. And then Lee Jun-seok, I imagine, is going to spend as much time as anything else in one way or another trying to set up his political future, so much as he is trying to influence this particular presidential campaign.
All right, Professor Richie, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You have a wonderful day.
Great, thank you. You as well.
Russia's massive aerial assault on Ukraine over the weekend left at least 12 people dead, including children. Ukrainian leader blasted Washington over its silence. Our Kim Bo-kyung has the details.
At least 12 people were killed and 60 wounded in different regions of Ukraine after the Kremlin launched a series of air assaults throughout Ukraine late Saturday night. Among those killed were 3 children from the same family in the Zhytomyr region, west of Kyiv, according to Ukraine's Internal Affairs Minister.
Let the world wake up and see. How long can they bomb children? We go to bed and do not know what awaits us in the morning.
Nearly 300 attack drones and almost 70 missiles of various types were fired, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on his social media X account, where he said ordinary citizens were subject to deliberate attacks. Zelensky condemned America's silence, saying it encouraged Putin, and asked for sanctions that would show the determination of the U.S. and European countries to stop Russia's brutality. Later on Sunday, U.S. President Donald Trump's special envoy for Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg, called Russia's overnight attacks a clear violation of the 1977 Geneva Peace Protocols designed to protect innocents. The protocol is an annex to the Geneva Convention signed in 1949, containing provisions for the protection of victims of international armed conflicts. Europe, too, strongly condemned Russia and warned of additional sanctions. German Foreign Minister Johann Vadeful said Putin, having no interest in peace, should not be tolerated and that the EU will agree to further sanctions. EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy Kaja Kallas was on the same page, stating the strongest international pressure was needed to make Russia end the war. The assault overnight into Sunday came despite the largest prisoner swap of the war taking place. Ukraine brought home 303 prisoners of war on Sunday in the final phase of a 1,000 for 1,000 prisoner exchange with Russia. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The U.S. has pressed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to delay plans for a full-scale ground offensive in Gaza. That's according to a report in the Jerusalem Post on Sunday that said the request made in order to allow ceasefire negotiations and a hostage deal proceed in parallel with the military operations. With the ceasefire negotiations deadlocked, Israel has intensified its bombardment and ground invasion in Gaza, with reports saying that the Israeli army controls over 77% of the Gaza Strip. In Gaza, a 4-year-old child died on Saturday due to severe malnutrition, bringing the death toll from hunger-related causes in the besieged enclave to 58. 9 children were also killed in an Israeli airstrike that struck a family home in Khan Yunis on Friday. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth visited the Korean War Veterans Memorial Park in Washington, D.C., joining cleanup efforts and highlighting the significance of the war. Marking the Memorial Day weekend, Hegseth cleaned the memorial's statues and monuments with his children on Saturday. Hegseth emphasized that the effort was more than just a cleanup, saying it's a chance to remind the kids what the Korean War was and why it mattered, according to the Defense Department. Secretary of Veterans Affairs Doug Collins also joined the cleaning up. U.S. President Donald Trump continues his war with Harvard University, this time demanding that the school provide his administration with the names of all of its international students. Taking to Truth Social on Sunday, Trump called on the school to provide names and countries of all of its international students, stressing that some of the countries of the schools come from are not friendly to the U.S. According to Harvard's latest data, this will mean names of over 6,700 international students. Meanwhile, other schools are expressing concern over the Trump administration's ban on Harvard's international students, including the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Its president said the government's decision is a fatal blow to American excellence, openness, and creativity.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. Police in southern France are investigating the possibility of organized arson after blackouts on Saturday and Sunday in Cannes and Nice, respectively, disrupted daily life and critical infrastructure. On Saturday, a fire at an electrical substation near Cannes caused a blackout affecting approximately 160,000 households. The outage coincided with the closing day of the Cannes Film Festival, though the event at the main venue ended seamlessly using backup generators. Also in the early hours of Sunday, a second incident occurred in Nice, where damage to an electrical facility left around 45,000 homes without power. An anonymous group claiming to be anarchists posted a statement online claiming responsibility for the Cannes outage, asserting they had sabotaged key electrical infrastructure. Authorities have not verified this claim but have launched criminal investigations into both incidents. Nice mayor condemned the attacks and has ordered an increase in police protection for sensitive electrical installations. Iran's Supreme National Security Council, the country's highest decision-making body, has suspended the enforcement of a contentious hijab law, despite its prior approval by parliament. On Sunday, Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf announced that the SNSC had directed Parliament not to implement the law to support the family by promoting chastity and hijab. The legislation was passed in December 2023 and aimed to impose stricter penalties on women violating mandatory hijab regulations, including heavy fines and imprisonment. The law had faced significant domestic and international criticism, with the United Nations describing it as gender apartheid. While the decision is seen by some as weakening Islamic principles, others argue for individuals' freedoms and women's rights. On Sunday, Pope Leo XIV assumed his role as Bishop of Rome by taking possession of the St. John Lateran Basilica, the cathedral or throne of the Diocese of Rome. By completing the final ceremony, the Pope completed the symbolic taking possession of 4 basilicas that signify full papal authority within Rome. During evening mass on the same day, the pontiff declared, "I am Roman." He also highlighted the importance of listening and collaboration within the Church. Pope Leo I, American-born pontiff, has now completed the formalities to become the Bishop of Rome after succeeding Pope Francis on May 8th. Starbucks announced on Monday a plan to implement the coffee franchise's first self-order kiosks in select stores across tourist-heavy areas in South Korea and Japan. The kiosks are aimed at enhancing the customer experience by reducing wait times and streamlining the ordering process. In South Korea, the kiosks will debut at the Starbucks Korea branch in Myeongdong, one of Seoul's most crowded shopping districts, visited by international tourists. Customers are expected to be able to use the machines as early as next month. Starbucks Japan is also set to implement kiosks at around the same time. Unlike Starbucks' traditional service model that emphasizes human connection, the technology aims to make ordering easier while also appealing to customers who prefer minimal interaction.
We had such a pleasant day yesterday, along with a gentle breeze and plenty of sunshine. As we kick off the last week of May, summer is truly making its presence known. As we head into the latter half of the week, temperatures in the capital will climb a little higher, ushering in that summer feel. And the sun will be quite strong today across the country. The UV index will be very high, especially in the central regions, and ozone concentrations will likely be unhealthy in most parts. So make sure you're protecting your skin. Most areas of Korea will see highs jumping to 26 degrees Celsius this afternoon, along with that plenty of sunshine and decent air quality. And we're looking at mostly clear weather for the next few days in the capital area with that warmth. But keep an eye out for passing showers in the eastern regions tomorrow and the day after.
That is all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.
천안에 가면
재밌다 이거.
글로벌 K컬처 세계 속에 꽃 피우다 2025 천안 K컬처 박람회
2025 celebrates the 80th anniversary of liberation. A place filled with culture, history, and diverse experiences. This is the Independence Hall of Korea. Upholding the values of the independence movement, and together with the whole nation, we will make Korea great. The Independence Hall of Korea.
제주 영어 교육 도시의 중심 NLCS 제주에서 세계 명문대 출신 엘리트 교사진과 해외 커리큘럼으로 전 세계 상위 1%의 학사 성과를 달성하고 있으며 졸업생들은 세계 최정상급 대학으로 진학하고 있습니다. 전인적인 성장과 함께 꿈을 찾아가는 특별한 교육의 가치. 글로벌 동문 네트워크로 계속됩니다. NLCS 제주가 명문대 진학의 길을 열어갑니다.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insight, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Monday, May 26th here in Seoul. I'm Song Mi-jin, and you're watching News Generation. Joining us this Monday is Ki Kim.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. And we're pleased to welcome a new panelist to our show today. She is Stefania, also known as Hanteri. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm Hanteri. I'm originally from Italy, but I've been living and working in Korea for the past 10 years. So I'm really happy to be here today.
We're very happy to have you on the show as well. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. So Monday is when we explore topics impacting young people in Korea. Now, here in the studio and beyond, as you can see, South Korea is becoming an increasingly multicultural society. So today on News Gen, we're going to take a closer look at why more people from around the world are choosing here to live and work. So Ki, we're going to start with some numbers. Do we have any data on how many foreign nationals are currently working here in Korea?
Sure, I love numbers. We'll start with the numbers. So as of last year, the number of foreign workers residing in South Korea surpassed 1.01 million for the first time, crossing the 1 million mark. And that's about 65% of the total foreign residents population. So with more and more foreigners seeking jobs in Korea, we're now seeing services adapting. Just last year, a foreign worker recruitment app was launched. And within just only 5 months, the number of job posting on this specific platform shall pass well over 50,000, showing super rapid growth. And not long ago, during the selection process for Korea's employment permit system in Vietnam, nearly 23,000 applicants competed for just 8,000 spots. So that's about 4-to-1 ratio. Local reports say that working in Korea's rural farming areas can earn a Vietnamese worker 4 times what they would make back home. As a matter of fact, among all foreign labor groups in Korea, Vietnamese workers reportedly have the highest average income, and it is a clear reflection of how Korea is becoming a major destination for migrant labor and how the dynamics of the workforces are rapidly changing right now.
And now I want to ask a question to you, Hanteri. You are originally from Italy, as you mentioned, and you're currently working here in Korea. So for our viewers, could you please tell us a bit more about your job and the reasons why you chose to work and live here in the country?
So I first came here in Korea in 2015, so it's been 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. And I first came here because I got a scholarship, a government scholarship, to study in the graduate school. So I studied, and then after that, I started to work, and I kept on living here for all that time. And right now, I'm working in a metaverse live streaming platform. It's a bit complicated, but there I'm doing some planning, and then I also take care of the operations and also all the analysis of live streamings and all the events we do. And on the side, sometimes I also do some broadcasting, and I also have a YouTube channel where I share a little bit of my life here in Korea.
Wow, you are having a very busy life here in Korea. So as you mentioned, it's been 10 years since you came to Korea. And as Ki mentioned, we're steadily seeing a rise in foreign national workers here in Korea. So I want to ask you, from your perspective, what makes Korea such an appealing destination to work for international job seekers?
I think it's the mix of safety, and also we have speed, we have innovation, we have culture. And for me, it was the best cocktail actually to be here and wanted to stay here. So the first time I came here, I was here as an exchange student, and I was really impressed by the really fast-pacing environment, but it was a really welcoming one too for me. So I wanted to stay here because it was a good way to improve in my career too. So probably that's another reason why young people from around the world, they want to come here and work here. And I think these days also the growth of the K-pop industry,
the Korean wave,
and also the makeup and skincare industry, and also the tech industry, they are getting so big in the world that a lot of people, they want to come here, learn, and also work here.
Then I also want to ask you, throughout the 10 years you've been living here, are you actually noticing more foreign nationals coming here to work, like your colleagues, for example? What would you say?
Oh, I can talk about the Italians here. And the first time, we always have one big event in the embassy once a year. And at first there were like, I think, less than 100 people. But these days we have more than 1,000, I think, coming to the event. Because there are so many people, like, I think Korea now is a country that everyone knows about. And a lot of people, they're using skincare and everything. And probably because of social channels too, everyone is having such a beautiful idea of this country, so they all want to come and experience the life here.
Very interesting. Now, Ki, you mentioned how you love numbers.
Yes.
So do we have any more numbers that could really show this trend?
So I also recall hosting an event for the Italian Chamber of Commerce. I remember about having like 800 guests from Italian brands, and you know, I couldn't. There's so many Italian people there, you know, exchanging. I only wish I could speak Italian back then. Anyhow, according to a recent survey, 9 out of 10 foreign students studying in Korea hope to find a job here after the graduation. And when asked why, here were the answers on the screen. So let's take a look at them. The most common reasons was a desire to continue living in Korea, which accounted for 35%, and the potential for higher salaries compared to their home countries, accounting for 28%. Whereas the opportunity to work in fields they're passionate about were similar at 26%. There were some who would go back to where they were originally from, however, thinking that studying here in Korea would help them get a good job back home. And it is clear for many, Korea isn't just a place to study, but a potential long-term destination for building their careers and live their lives afterward.
Okay, so now time to hear from our viewers. We also asked them the same question. Would you consider working in Korea? And if you are willing to, what are the reasons? And here are 3 responses that stood out. Our first comment for this Monday is by Brown Giraffe 33. I took that challenge 5 years ago, and that led me to discover a part of the world I now call home. It also introduced me to many amazing friends, embrace the fear, and then some magical moments on the other side of the world await you. DS92KO, Korea is becoming a global hotspot for work and life. I take the leap if the right opportunity came along. Our final comment is by 20-something Drifter11. As someone who has lived and worked in Korea before, I loved living in Korea. There was always plenty to do. It was easy to get around, and there were plenty of wonderful people. But you do need your own special skills if you want a long-term career. All right, thank you for all the comments. After the break, we'll now hear directly from a millennial from Uzbekistan who's living and working here in Korea. Stay tuned.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Welcome back. Joining us this Monday is Uzbekistan millennial Madina Gaiblueva. Welcome back to the show, Madina.
Hello, everyone.
Great Monday. So Madina, we'd first like to ask you, when did you start working in Korea, and what kind of work do you do, and what made you start in Korea in the first place?
Thank you for your question. Actually, I'm already 4 years in Korea, living here in Korea. I get a job after my graduation. I started working immediately, and I'm currently working as an overseas sales manager in a Korean company. And our company specializes in manufacturing and exporting auto spare parts to abroad. We have our own brand, which calls Super Q. And we also collaborate with the major companies as Hyundai and Kia. We primarily export auto spare parts to Central Asian countries, to Australia, sometimes to United Arab Emirates and United States as well. Also, we are focusing on expanding our market and building new partnership in South America as well. And in the first place, what made me to start this job, even during my university, I was fascinated by how global trade works and how products reach different corners of the world. So I was curious about the behind the scenes, how experts doing, and that curiosity led me to start right after graduation in a company that exports auto spare parts globally. And I wanted to learn and grow and contribute to something that connects people and businesses across the countries.
Okay, thank you, Medina. This could be a very critical question. So during 4 years of your career here in Korea, what do you think are the pros and cons of working in Korea?
It's a good question for foreigners. And one of the main advantages of working in Korea is the opportunity to grow professionally in a global environment. You get to develop both as hard and soft skills here while working with international partners and clients, which broadens your perspective. And there are also great opportunities for networking. You can connect with professionals from around the world and build valuable relationships with your industry. Another positive aspect is the structured work culture. So the working day typically starts and ends on time, which helps maintain a healthy work-life balance. But on the other hand, one of the main challenges, especially for someone coming from a country like Central Asia or Uzbekistan, is a relatively limited number of vacation days. In Korea, annual leave is generally shorter, and it can be more difficult to take expand day off. This can make it harder to fully rest or spend longer period with your family. Additionally, while the work environment is efficient, it can also be fast-paced and demanding at times, which requires strong time and stress management skills.
I really agree with what she's saying.
Foreigners understand me.
I know, right? Do you have any advice for young people who wants to move and work in Korea?
My advice would be open-minded, adaptable to anything, and ready to learn. Working in Korea can be fast-paced and challenging, but it also offers great opportunities for growth. Respect the local culture, of course, but build strong relationship, build good networking. It may help you in future, and don't be afraid to step out your comfort zone. That's where the real learning starts.
Very helpful advice. All right, Medina, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me today. Have a good week.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Right, so as Medina just mentioned, of course, while there are so many upsides, it's also important to talk about the challenges that come with living and working in a completely new country. So, Ki, what are some of the common difficulties that international workers face here in Korea, and also Korea as a society may need to address as its workforce becomes more culturally diverse?
So, even as the number of foreign workers in Korea continue to rise, there are still significant legal gaps that need to be addressed, and there's obviously blind spots. Sometimes there's the unbiased or biased view. So for example, many foreign workers are employed under the employment permit system, which sort of limits their freedom to change their workplaces. So this means that if they face unfair treatment from their employers or from their work, it's not easy for them to simply switch jobs, which is a serious disadvantage. And what's more, while Korea has laws against workplace harassment now and would take them seriously especially as we can see the warning signs everywhere and we hear them whenever we connect to any company or service on a phone. These regulations do not differentiate between local and foreign workers, so making it difficult to accurately assess and address the working conditions and human rights of this vulnerable group. And it's a reminder that as Korea becomes more globally connected, its labor laws need to keep pace to protect all workers out there, including foreigners.
Especially as we're seeing an increase in foreign workers.
Exactly, right? And depending on the criteria or industries, there needs to be a different approach for each field, but I guess we still are in the process of getting there.
Right, and Han-tae-ri, as a foreign national who is working in Korea, could you share your thoughts on this or any more examples?
Oh, I do agree with what he said, and there are a lot of tough problems for foreigners working here, but I also saw a rise on undocumented workers these days, so I think that sometimes the problem is the tricky system about the visa and everything, but sometimes we also have the problem that some employers, they're taking advantage of this point, but we also have some foreigners that they take advantage of the situation and they overstay their visa, and then they might just be connected to some illegal work or also do some crime. And there was a case in Jeju where it was about drug, and they found out that it was connected to undocumented workers. So it created, in the end, a bad image about foreign workers in Korea. So I think that's another point that foreign workers here, they might face. It's that the image in general, because of some people, it got worse. So there should be something done to protect real hardworking workers, and then also do something to not make these situations happen.
There's definitely some room for improvement, right?
Yeah. I agree.
Okay, then we're gonna wrap up our show today with some practical advice. For those who are considering moving to Korea for work, what would you suggest they prepare both professionally and also personally?
So when I went to actually study abroad, for example, say United States for high school or Japan for college, there's a reason behind it because they are considered to be advanced, so to speak, country, or they have an advanced system to broaden my vision, right? And I'm glad that Korea is now considered to be one of those countries. So, but one of the things I really ask you is that understand and learn about their culture. For example, at the job, we have a tendency of respecting elders and our superior for sometimes it's very extreme.
More like a hierarchical structure.
And especially if you go to big corporate, that sort of a culture. And I mean, they try to stabilize it nowadays, but still it's very big in our within our culture. And also, like Han-tae-ri said, the visa is very complicated, how to obtain them, and each company has a different system. But nowadays, a good thing is that a lot of government agencies and institutes, they have a very good explanations in many different languages, and each embassy is very well responding to any sort of a situation that's taking place. So try to learn them, try to research them, and they'll probably tell you about all those information. So research enough, learn about the culture, and drama is not always 100% correct. There's sometimes it's a bit different than reality. So you know, learn about them beforehand, and you'll be prepared.
All right, and Han-tae-ri, I think that you're the best person who could give this advice because you're currently working in a Korean company. So what kind of tips would you like to share to our viewers ending off?
I agree with the fact that now there's so many new tips you can get in your own language, and I found it really, really helpful because before that, taxes or visa problems, whatever, you had to face and solve it all on yourself. Yeah, but now a lot of companies also, they are trying to help. The government is also really into new foreign workers, so they are trying to make new visa and make the system easier. So that part is really nice. But I might say, no matter how easier it gets, you should learn Korean for sure. Learn Korean, learn the culture. As you said, hierarchy here is really, really important. Even though these days they are trying to make it less important, but it's still really important. It's important the indirect communication. So you should try to learn that part too. And there's also there's still the 회식 part. So
the after work gathering.
Yeah, the company gatherings, and you have dinner all together, and they are all part of the culture. So if you want to get into the team, that's also a big part of that. So I think that if you're able to adjust culturally and try to be part of the group, then the group will accept you much more. And I also find that you should keep your mindset like a bit strong, because at the beginning it's really everything is really exciting, but at some point it gets really lonely, and then you get you have so many difficulties in front of you. But if you're able to embrace it, and you just will be able to become a better person, in my opinion.
Oh, that's such a helpful advice. Well, thank you so much, both of you guys, for sharing those tips. And that's all we have for today, but NewsGen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks to Kikim.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Hante, you did such an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow on Tuesday. We are News Generation.
제주 영어 교육 도시의 중심 NLCS 제주에서 세계 명문대 출신 엘리트 교사진과 해외 커리큘럼으로 전 세계 상위 1%의 학사 성과를 달성하고 있으며 졸업생들은 세계 최정상급 대학으로 진학하고 있습니다. 전인적인 성장과 함께 꿈을 찾아가는 특별한 교육의 가치. 글로벌 동문 네트워크로 계속됩니다. NLCS 제주가 명문대 진학의 길을 열어갑니다.
How to survive in Korea. Cafes. Step 1. Find a seat. Before ordering, find a seat. Laptop, ID, smartphone, jacket, whatever that can mark your territory. But no bites. It's a little too big. Step 2. Pick up. We do not ask or call your name. We call out, B69 고객님. The buzzer will vibrate when your order is ready at the counter. Wait, got your straw? Keep the top of the wrapper on. Doing this is more hygienic. Step 3. Cafe etiquette. If you need to use your laptop, find a seat next to a socket. No extra charge for using electricity. But if you're staying over 3 hours, how about ordering another drink or dessert? Step 4. Last bite standing. There's a mysterious custom in Korea. The last bite standing. When there's about 1 bite left of that cake, nobody will go for it. You might be tempted, but don't be hasty. Right before you get up, take the last piece, saying that you simply can't waste food, or just leave it. It will save a few calories. Did you survive at the cafe? Did someone behind the counter catch your eye? Go for the same drink every single day.
오늘도 아이스 말차 라떼 드실 거죠?
You might make an impression.
To set the facts straight. Get Korea right.
안녕하세요. 저는 인도네시아에서 온 방과 회원 무티아라 하이라니입니다. 반갑습니다. 인도네시아에 왔을 때 한국 드라마를 즐거웠어요. 그러다가 한국에 와서 대학을 다니게 됐어요. 한국 사극 드라마도 즐거웠어요. 왕과 왕비가 살고 그리고 신하들이 회의를 하고 그리고 궁녀들이 일하는 그런 궁궐에 관심이 생겼어요. 제가 제일 좋아하는 궁은 경복궁입니다. 그런데 AI한테 경복궁 그림을 보여달라고 했더니 엉뚱한 그림을 보였다는 제보가 있었어요. 예를 들면 궁 앞에 강이 있고 나룻배가 있다든지 산 꼭대기에 있다든지 이런 오해들. 제가 직접 경복궁을 소개해 드릴게요. 같이 갈까요? 경복궁은 대한민국 역사와 문화의 중심지로 여겨져요. 조선시대 왕실의 위엄과 격식을 제대로 알 수 있는 곳이거든요. 또 경복궁은 외국인 관광객이 많이 방문하는 서울의 랜드마크 중 하나입니다. 제가 경복궁을 사랑하는 이유 이제 아시겠죠? 한국에 대한 잘못된 정보를 바로 찾는 일, 여러분도 함께 해주세요.
These days, there has been a string of exciting news in the world of Taekwondo. Recently, a collaborative meeting was held in Jeonbuk to support Taekwondo's inscription as a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage. With the goal of achieving this by 2030, Gukgiwon, the Taekwondo Promotion Foundation, and the Jeonbuk provincial government are all joining forces in preparation. Also, in 2026, the World Taekwondo Grand Prix Series will be held for the first time in Korea at the Taekwondo-won in Muju. Rooted in long-standing tradition, Taekwondo has now evolved into a global cultural practice shared around the world. Hello, this is Culture Crunch's DJ Joel, and it is May. We are talking K-heritage. We've invited a guest who is connecting children to the world through Taekwondo. We are going to meet him, but before that, we are going to take a quick listen to a song. This is Tweak's Heavy Cloud But No Rain by Kwangwon Sonya, or Girls in the Park.
보고 싶어졌어 난 손을 뻗어